Some say it's a masterpiece, others say it's in desperate need of a proper edit. Let's read The Goldfinch. Hello, welcome to Recovering Book Snob. My name is Chloe, thank you for being here. I'm just gonna get into it, and I'm gonna keep you updated along the way. A reading vlog, if you will. Hello, we have just finished chapter 1, so we're on page 57. Let's talk about first impressions. Chapter 1 opens in the present day, Theo, our protagonist's present day, where he reflects about his current situation and also talks a bit about his mother, who we learn quite quickly has died. It then moves on, and the bulk of the chapter talks about the event that led to his mother's death, which is a terrorist attack at a museum in New York. I've really enjoyed it so far. I liked that initial description of Theo's mother. I really liked how he spoke about her. I found it just really moving and sweet and very kind of true to grief. So I love that part. And then when we then moved on to like the big day, when his mother died, that was pretty extraordinary to read, because you have the day and the build up, and that feels quite tense because you know something bad's going to happen. And then there is quite a long passage where we follow Theo from waking up disoriented after being kind of in the blast, and then him moving out of the museum kind of through the wreckage and onto the streets, and yeah, very distressing, and I can already feel myself reading this book quite quickly, so that bodes well. Hello. We are now 159 pages in, and I am enjoying myself still. It's focusing on the aftermath, his grieving, the way people are responding to him at school, and I'm finding it really, really touching. Especially there's a lot of detail. I mean, in general there's a lot of detail, but there's a lot of detail in terms of like how people are interacting with him. Now that he's experienced this extraordinary, like, devastating event, and overall finding the book very engaging, even if just for its kind of descriptions of grief, and even for just like the character, let alone the plot, because the plot is also very intriguing. I really just have no idea where this book is going. There's a lot of tension, a lot of mystery, and as I mentioned, it's super detailed. So in a sense, I guess it's slow moving, but I'm, you know, 100 and whatever pages in, and I'm looking at how much more there is to go, and I'm feeling like only excited. It doesn't really feel daunting. For what it currently feels like we're building towards, it looks like the length of this book is necessary, but it's definitely one of those things where we're gonna see how I feel when I turn over the last page, because I feel like with books like this that are kind of mysterious and lots of things that get revealed long after they're first presented to you, these details can be enjoyable in themselves, but you know, it really matters that they end up making sense when you get to the end, you know, that you close the book and you're like, oh yeah, that all came together. All that time this author spent focusing on XYZ was so necessary. What a genius. Because if it doesn't come together, you're kind of left just being a bit like, this could have been 200 pages shorter. So I don't know. I also already feel like I'm connecting to the book quite well, so maybe I'm going to fall into the category of people who feel like the length is necessary. Hopefully I will. Because I'm going to spend a lot of time reading it. I'm at page 326, I'm not really sure. And I've only just clocked that this book is over 800 pages long. I'm not sure why, but in my head it was like 400, but just a chunky 400. Sometimes you pick up a book and it's like weirdly chunky looking, but it's not actually that long. But I just flicked to the end because, as I said, over 300 pages in, and I was like, this this doesn't look like over halfway, because I was really enjoying, you know, I was really looking forward to looking at where my bookmark was and being like, ah, yes, we're over halfway now. So I was a little bit confused. So I flicked to the end, obviously like blurred my eyes while I was doing it because I'm petrified of accidentally reading the last page. And yeah, 800 and something, what is it? Yeah, like 850 pages. So I better get cracking. Anyway, let's check in. I'm really enjoying myself. There haven't been any twists and turns, and I do, from what I recall, I think that is quite similar to The Secret History. It does kind of feel similar in the way that you've just got this bubbling tension, and we are meeting some really interesting characters. I think some of the characters that have entered Theo's life, there's this big question of like, are they going to ultimately be good and have a good impact on him, or are they going to be bad? And I think there's a lot of ambiguity, like a lot of characters that in a sense are very, very questionable, but a part of you feels like, oh, maybe because of their affection for Theo, or maybe because they're a little bit misunderstood, they'll ultimately be good for him, or kind of come through in the end. So I am really enjoying that. I think it's really cool, and we are still just moving quite slowly through this period of post death grief, and we haven't really got to the meat of the plot yet, or at least the kind of part that the synopsis, the what's it called, like the blurb refers to. We just haven't got there yet, but I don't really mind because I'm having a good time. I'm also really enjoying Theo as a character. It's in his voice, and I'm finding that you really notice that he's a 14-year-old. It doesn't feel like the author's just slapped on the label of like, this person's 14 and isn't just saying like, okay, believe it, and then the voice is a bit adult. Like, it does feel like he's a 14-year-old, but Theo is a very intelligent 14-year-old, but he's still a child. You know, they notice stuff and they feel stuff. They have a full range of emotion and have reasoning capabilities. I think sometimes books writing about children like don't fully appreciate that, but then sometimes they go too far and it feels like you're reading about an adult. But this is just, I think, really well, you know, perfectly balances that. I also can't get over the concept, although I'm obviously not that far in. I can't help but tell my friends about this book. I just want to talk about it all the time, and I think it's because it's a really interesting concept. And that angle, you know, having grief and having that story in itself next to this other story that's very tense and criminal, like all I can really think is why. I really hope that that weird combo is made the most of, and I finished the book feeling like both of those stories kind of added to each other. Let's see how the next few hundred pages look. Hi, how's it going? Okay, let me put you somewhere a little bit more comfortable. I'm at page 530 something, and there we are. So we have actually made it over halfway, which is exciting. And yeah, first and foremost, I do love Theo. I do love our protagonist. Very, very attached to him. And I'm getting a bit scared because a lot of bad stuff has happened. And I'm just hoping that this isn't another, you know, insert ultra bleak book here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hack it if it just continues to go downhill. They've mentioned OxyContin, which I guess, like, it is a huge problem. So it is going to appear in a lot of books set in the US, you know, in that time period. If anything, it's probably going to appear in like all of them because of its prevalence. But I read Empire of Pain, and I also read Demon Copperhead, and I read those books recently, and the moment it was mentioned I was like, I don't know if I can take another. It goes without saying, very moving book. I have one whole criticism. Occasionally it does feel like a paragraph will just run away with itself. you occasionally do come across these enormous, chunky, multi-page paragraphs that are very descriptive, and sometimes I feel like they're not necessary. But this doesn't happen that much. I've come across like a handful. Overall, I'm loving it. I'm so excited to sit down and read it, and that's what really matters at the end of the day. Hello, it's been several days since I picked up the Goldfinch, which is quite disappointing, and in part, like, I have been really busy, but I'm on page 750 now, so I've only got 100 pages left, and I am just finding that I'm not enjoying where it's gone, and I'm still trying to work out whether that's because I'm kind of, yeah, not enjoying the direction of the plot, and I sort of am struggling to separate writing quality from just me being really attached to the protagonist and being a bit sad and distressed and kind of not wanting to see what happens. Either are valid, but yeah, I've been mulling that question. Anyway, I think it is probably high time that I finish this book, so I'm gonna lie here and try to get 100 pages done. I don't want to spoil specifically, but I'm just finding it really, really sad. I was given a bit of a glimmer of hope a few hundred pages ago, and now that glimmer's disappeared. And I also, a little part of me is kind of failing to understand the character. Theo is just so adrift and so kind of out of control of his own life, and just going along with whatever the people around him want, and is just, yeah, like, not true to himself at all. Doesn't seem to really understand his own values. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm finding that just really, really sad, and maybe that is a kind of main theme of this book, you know, as a result of his grief and the terrible experience he experienced early on. But yeah, it's breaking my heart, and with each page it just feels like we're not going to get that ending that I hoped for. Am I starting to not like this book, or is it just making me kind of uncomfortable and sad, and I don't know. Okay, let's read. Hello, we finished, and I'm pretty in shock. The last 200 pages I spent flip-flopping. I was really worried for a sort of portion of it, because I was like, you know, as I mentioned in the last clip, I just really didn't, I thought it was going to go somewhere I didn't want it to go, and I was kind of unsure as to like what the point of certain parts of that portion were, but by the time I finished the book I did feel quite satisfied. And it is just a crazy, crazy book. I do think it deserves the hype. It's definitely a 5-star. It made me feel very emotional, which is obviously one of the signs of a good book. And I don't know, it just has this it factor that I can't explain and I can't ignore. Yeah, I'll be thinking about this book for a while. Oh yeah, I have a little quote that I wanted to read to you that I particularly liked. Which page was it? It gets very reflective and kind of rambling towards the end, and I think that is where a lot of the negative commentary comes from. At points in the book I kind of agree with that. It was a bit much, and some of it felt a bit boring, dare I say boring. But it got across Theo's lack of control really well, so I sort of forgive it. But anyway, here's my passage. What if one happens to be possessed of a heart that can't be trusted? What if the heart, for its own unfathomable reasons, leads one willfully and in a cloud of unspeakable radiance away from health, domesticity, civic responsibility, and strong social connections, and all the blandly held common virtues, and instead straight towards a beautiful flare of ruin, self-immolation, disaster? Is Kitsy right? If your deepest self is singing and coaxing you straight towards the bonfire, is it better to turn away? Stop your ears with wax. Ignore all the perverse glory your heart is screaming at you. Set yourself on the course that will lead you dutifully towards the norm, reasonable hours and regular medical checkups, stable relationships and steady career advancement, the New York Times and brunch on Sunday, all with the promise of being somehow a better person. Or, like Boris, is it better to throw yourself headfirst and laughing into the holy rage calling your name? I think that last sentence in particular I just like absolutely loved. The holy rage calling your name. I feel that holy rage. Anyway, as usual, thank you for watching. I hope you have had a lovely week. I hope you have a lovely week. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.